The day before, my younger sister had threatened to die rather than marry Calvin, the adopted son, and inherit the family meat processing plant. Yet the very next day, she greeted him with a beaming smile, declaring she would marry no one else. I realized she had been reborn too. In the previous life, our parents intended for my sister to marry Calvin and take over the business. However, my sister became infatuated with Alex, my writer boyfriend whom I'd met while studying abroad. She insisted on choosing her own marriage for true love, vehemently opposing arranged unions. She drugged both Calvin and me, placed us in bed together to catch us in the act. Not only did I lose my reputation, but Alex, who despised me, abandoned me. Meanwhile, my sister seized the chance to win Alex over. They returned to the city to indulge in luxury and romance, while I was left to run the meat processing plant with Calvin, and together, we made the business flourish. Only when my sister and Alex squandered all their money did Alex become addicted to gambling. After being beaten into disability and relying on others for care, my sister immediately abandoned him. She ran back home demanding I give Calvin back to her, even conspiring with our parents to trap me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the engagement day. Seeing my sister happily preparing to marry Calvin, I clutched my National Defense University acceptance letter tightly in my hand. Ophelia, this is your admission letter. You report to campus in 2 weeks, so keep it safe. You've finally made it after everything you've been through. We've all seen your struggles over the years. Principal Song personally granted you special admission in recognition of your hard work. I took the slip of paper from the village head, my fingers trembling slightly. The words National Defense University stood out in bold calligraphy. Thank you, Chief. This was the opportunity I'd missed in my previous life, and I wasn't going to let it slip away this time. I carefully tucked the letter into a cloth bag and started making my way home. As I pushed the door open, the sound of laughter and the smell of meat wafted out. When my mother saw me, she rolled her eyes, set down her chopsticks, and immediately began lecturing. You lazy girl. Where have you been all morning? Off hiding and goofing around? Luciana and Calvin are getting married soon, so you should stick around and help out with things. Aren't you eating? Then clear the table. I looked at the table where leftover bones were piled and only 2 vegetables remained on the plate. I managed a thin smile and replied flatly. My younger sister Luciana, who just yesterday had thrown a tantrum over her arranged marriage to Calvin, our adopted brother, was now sitting close beside him, looking utterly affectionate. Recently, my father had intended for Luciana to marry Calvin and inherit the meat processing plant. However, Luciana had always treated Calvin like a servant, and she had her sights set on Alex, the writer I'd met while studying abroad, who was my boyfriend. She wept, threw violent tantrums, and threatened suicide by hanging to avoid marrying Calvin. My mother, torn between fury and concern, spent days reasoning with her, unable to bring herself to scold her own daughter. To everyone's surprise, early this morning Luciana emerged transformed, a completely different person. Beaming at Calvin, she declared she'd marry no one else and immediately demanded to know from our mother when the wedding would be. My parents were thrilled, believing Luciana had finally recognized the advantages of marrying Calvin and inheriting the business. They promptly organized the engagement and threw a celebratory feast. Calvin, as usual, was quiet and reserved, but unmistakable joy lit his eyes. Luciana clung to his arm, glancing smugly at me. Now that I'm engaged to Calvin, the meat plant is no longer your concern, she said proudly. I have no objections, I replied calmly. I won't go starting tomorrow. Luciana thought she could simply lie back and rake in the profits with the meat plant, eagerly pushing me to sever ties with it. She had no idea of the harsh reality of running the business. In my previous life, Calvin always believed I had drugged him and attempted to seize Luciana's inheritance rights. After marriage, he secretly continued giving Luciana money while treating me with cold indifference. As a woman running such a large operation, the pressure was crushing. To earn the trust of longtime employees, I worked tirelessly, virtually living at the factory. I managed everything single-handedly, often drinking myself nearly to alcohol poisoning just to keep the business afloat. It took me 3 years to finally establish my position at the plant. Spoiled since childhood, Luciana couldn't endure hardship, much less imagine how grueling it had been. Luciana hurriedly urged us to arrange the wedding, scheduling it for just 3 days later. The ceremony was bustling, with my father even arranging a brand new car to chauffeur them. Luciana stepped out of the car in her white, fluffy gown, drawing the attention of many villagers. Everyone knew that she and Calvin were about to inherit the meat plant, and the guests at the banquet were eager to curry favor with them. While darting between errands for my parents, helping in the kitchen one moment and greeting guests the next, Luciana made her way to me. She disdainfully eyed the rough cotton shirt I wore and smiled smugly. "Ophelia, Calvin, and the meat plant belong to me now. This time, you'll end up marrying some worthless man and living off scraps." I tilted my head and feigned confusion. "Alex? He is an accomplished author who studied abroad. How could he possibly be a poor match?" Luciana's eyes flickered for a moment, then she arrogantly lifted her chin. "So what if he reads a lot? Does that put food on the table? Only you would like someone like him. By the way, I'm already getting married, so being the older sister, you'd better hurry up too. You can't just freeload at home forever. After all, the meat plant will soon be belonging to me." With that, she strutted off to receive compliments from the others. The next day, my parents summoned me to the main hall where Luciana and Calvin already sat. Alex, whom I hadn't seen in days, was also present. Dressed in a sharp suit with his hair neatly combed back and gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, he looked every bit the refined gentleman. My parents chatted with him, beaming with delight. Spotting me, they urgently beckoned me over. "Ophelia, why are you hovering there? Come here. We're settling your marriage arrangements with Alex today, no excuses." Luciana added hypocritically, "Yes, sister, you're not getting any younger. You can't stay unmarried forever after me, can you? Just marry someone like Alex already." Alex, flattered by the praise, proudly adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. "Ophelia, I understand how you feel, and I agree to this marriage, but there are a few conditions. First, we're not on the same intellectual level. I've received an elite education while your exposure is limited, so after marriage you'll need to follow my direction regarding all domestic matters. Second, your educational background is inadequate and your origins are humble. You cannot compare to affluent society wives. After marriage, your role will be managing the household, supporting your husband, and raising children." My parents immediately answered for me, grinning from ear to ear. "Of course, that's no problem. A woman's role is to know her place. It's only right and proper." Just like that, they arranged my marriage as though merely informing me of the decision. 5 pairs of eyes stared at me, and once their discussion concluded, finally came my turn to speak. I chewed over their words, recalling Alex's numerous admirers, and felt a wry amusement. "All right, have it your way." I had only 3 days before starting university, so I decided to go along with them to keep the peace. My parents were overjoyed, and Alex wore a smug, controlling look. "I knew you'd agree. You've got no skills or qualities to speak of, just your looks. Frankly, I'm the only one who'd even marry you." Smugly, he departed. Our wedding wasn't rushed, though the negotiations over the bride price and gifts involved extended back and forth. When my parents returned home, they immediately started yelling, complaining that Alex's family demanded too high a bride price while offering too little in gifts. "Humph, after all this trouble, how much money are we really getting? It's all going to you, you ungrateful wretch. Don't imagine marrying a scholar means you'll live the high life. Once married, you'll repay us tenfold for this money." My mother jabbed my forehead, her face twisted with resentment. Luciana lay on the bed, eating grapes from a bowl and curling her lip as she said, "Once a girl gets married, she's like spilled water. Mom, I think we should demand a higher dowry. Otherwise, what if we get scammed?" Meanwhile, Alex kept showing up at our house every day, his face dark with anger. Let's get one thing straight, there are plenty of women who want to marry me. If this marriage falls through, don't come crawling back to me. I put on a helpless expression and shrugged. My parents decide marriage matters. They want it this way, there's nothing I can do. He stormed off in a fury. The real reason he never mentioned calling off the wedding wasn't out of love for me, of course. It was because this time around, he and Luciana remained involved. In the eyes of this so-called advanced thinker and intellectual who had studied abroad, a controversial affair with his in-laws was nothing more than a romantic escapade, perhaps even necessary writing inspiration. I didn't want to get involved with their affair, but I didn't expect their shamelessness to be beyond my imagination. The next day, my parents dragged me to a small grove near the village. There, before some relatives, stood Alex and Luciana, disheveled, one glowering, the other weeping pitifully. I raised an eyebrow, looking at the sun overhead. These two really had no sense of time or place for their desires. To my surprise, Luciana rushed over and grabbed me as soon as she saw me. "Sister, clearly you're the one afraid Alex would regret marrying you because of your low education. You wanted to trap him by being caught together in bed. I was only trying to help you, so how could you deliberately knock me out and ruin things between me and Alex?" As soon as Alex heard Luciana shift the blame onto Ophelia, he immediately sided with her. "Ophelia, you are really disappointing to me." The villagers, who were gossiping and pointing at them, immediately turned to me. "An unmarried young woman, however desperate she may be to marry, shouldn't throw herself at a man to sleep with him." "Exactly. Spreading lies about her own sister to ruin her marriage just to inherit the meat plant? What a shameless and vicious person." I noticed the smug look in Luciana's eyes and kept my expression cold. Everyone should speak with evidence. I was home all day and only just arrived. As soon as I finished speaking, my mother slapped me across the face. "Don't lie, you little brat. Your father and I found you sneaking in and changing your clothes. So this is the shameful thing you were doing, and now you're trying to pin it on your sister?" She pinched a chunk of my flesh and whispered threateningly, "Luciana's reputation must not be tarnished. If this gets out, she'll face serious trouble. Regardless, you're marrying Alex, so just admit it. They won't be able to touch you." After that, she began crying loudly, tears streaming down her face as she tried to persuade me, "After doing something so foolish, how am I supposed to face everyone?" As Calvin supported the uncontrollably sobbing Luciana, he looked at me with murderous intent. If not for the crowd, he would have charged at me. Though he usually seemed quiet, his violent and sinister nature was known only to a select few. "Ophelia, you want to mess around with men? Go ahead and die then, but why drag Luciana into it? If anyone hurts her, I'll kill them." Some children who were watching started throwing stones at me, laughing and clapping. "The whore's getting hit." "Whore." The villagers didn't intervene. In fact, some even suggested I should be thrown into the pigsty to protect the reputation of the other girls in the village. Not wanting to face so many people at once, I gritted my teeth, bore the pain, and ran home to pack my things and leave immediately. But I couldn't find my acceptance letter that I'd hidden in the lining of my clothing. "Looking for this, sister?" I turned to see Luciana moments ago weeping pitifully, now clutching my acceptance letter, malice twisting her features. My heart sank. "Give it back. I'll do anything. I want you to kneel before me and remain underfoot forever. You were meant to live in my shadow. What made your past life so much better than mine that you get into some top-tier university? Just forget it." I lunged for the letter, but Luciana shredded it as I reached for it. Seeing the pale look on my face, Luciana grinned, kicked me, then leaned down to pinch my cheek and breathed into my ear. "Sister, I know you've been reincarnated. What does it matter? Mom and Dad don't care about you. Calvin doesn't love you. And Alex? That scum? I've already used him up. You, just be a good dog and do as I say." I looked at my parents standing behind her, blocking the door and ready to stop me from running out, as tears streamed down my face. "You're going to regret this." Luciana laughed loudly. Regret? Look at you, what could you possibly have that would make me regret this? Do you believe that if I killed you now, no one would speak up for you? After all, it was you who ruined my reputation. I was just upset and killed you accidentally. As she said this, she even managed a few crocodile tears. My parents rushed forward immediately, comforting Luciana as if she were their precious little jewel while darting deadly glares at me. You ungrateful wretch. Still dreaming of university? Where would we find money for that? Who knows what shameful ways got you admitted? Disgraceful. Now that this has happened, if Alex's family refuses to pay the bride price, we'll sell you to Irma Z at the village entrance. We'll use the dowry money to cover a new bride price. Listening to their curses, I thought my numb heart would stay numb, but it still ached. Just then the front door was kicked open and a deep, thunderous voice boomed. Let me see who dares to sell my student. With this reprimand, a group of people surged forward, positioning themselves between me and the village chief. The elderly man leading the group wore a Zhongshan suit that radiated calm authority. My parents shouted furiously, "Who the hell are you, old man, to interfere in our family's business?" But Alex froze in place, staring at him, and blurted out, "Principal Song? What are you doing here?" I turned my head and saw the person who had once graciously met with me, Principal Song of the National Defense University, who had admitted me as an exception. Everyone stared wide-eyed in disbelief. Even my parents looked confused. What do you mean, Principal? Principal Song snorted and gave them a cold glance. If I hadn't been passing through the area and decided to take Ophelia to university, who knows what you all would have done to my student otherwise? Alex, unable to conceal his shock, looked from me to Principal Song. How could she possibly be your student? She's just a simple villager. Before he could finish, Principal Song cut him off. And who are you to question my decision? Alex quickly put on a smile and approached, attempting to salvage the situation. I'm Alex. As a student, I had the privilege of hearing you speak at Renmin University and have long admired your work. I've even written several books and hope to seek your guidance. A scholar? Principal Song scoffed. You don't hold a candle to Ophelia. Principal Song reprimanded him sharply and mercilessly. I heard everything you just said. You've all twisted the truth and maligned an innocent young woman. What exactly were you hoping to achieve? Ophelia is the most talented student I've ever seen. I was puzzled to discover she hadn't been admitted despite taking the exam. Upon investigation, I discovered the school had already mailed the admission letter, but you tore it up and stopped her. How despicable. Cold sweat broke out on Alex's forehead. Principal, I didn't do it. I know nothing about this. It's not my fault. He even staggered back, putting distance between himself and my parents in a bid to disavow his earlier remarks. Principal Song didn't even spare him a glance. He turned to me and waved his hand. Ophelia, come with me. It's time to report to school. Don't worry about the admission letter, I'll see to it you get in. I took a step forward, but my parents yanked my arm back, shouting at the top of their lungs, even if you're a principal, what gives you the right to take our daughter? She's our daughter. What is so wrong about her getting married and having children? How is that harming her? Principal Song gave them a cold stare. The only reason I've held my tongue is out of respect for your position as Ophelia's parents. You've been making it hard for her, ruining her future. Do you even call yourselves decent parents anymore? He turned to Luciana. And you. Here you are openly slandering your own sister and destroying her admission letter. That exceptional admission letter was personally approved by me. Now tell me, what exactly are you implying between her and me? Luciana didn't dare to speak, shrinking back in fear. She only dared to mouth off in front of those without authority, but now that she realized the admission letter had been personally issued by the principal, she was too afraid to say anything. My father's face flushed red and he defiantly said, "So what if you approved it? A woman's place is in marriage. What's the use of schooling?" Principal Song looked at me, his tone softening. Ophelia, tell me, Would you rather get married or go to university? I looked into his kind eyes and declared firmly, I want to go to university. I don't want to get married, especially not to a playboy like Alex who flirts around. I want to make my own decisions about my life. Good. Principal Song exclaimed, his eyes shining with energy. We're leaving. I smiled and made my way alongside Principal Song through the crowd. Behind us, Alex lunged forward and grabbed my hand. Ophelia. We're getting married soon. Alex, I'm not marrying you ever. It's over. He covered his face with his hand, staring at me in disbelief. You are crazy. I smiled mockingly. And I'm free now. From now on you'll be free, and if you don't wish to interact with your family or want me to prevent them from bothering you, I can help with that. Principal Song led me to a guest house and offered me tea with a smile. I exhaled softly, feeling long-awaited relief. Thank you, Principal Song. You've already helped me so much. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had a second chance to attend the National Defense University. Principal Song waved his hand dismissively. Discovering talent for the nation is my duty. I'm certain that once you complete your studies, you'll exceed my expectations. Since Principal Song still had some matters to attend to, I stayed in the guest house for 2 more days before heading to school as planned. The next day, while I was studying the materials Principal Song had given me, someone knocked on the guest house door. A group of people barged in, led by my parents with sycophantic smiles as though nothing had happened the day before. They crowded around me immediately, asking eagerly, Ophelia, we're here specifically to see Principal Song. Oh, we were so rude yesterday. He took you on as a student, so you must be quite close. Maybe you could introduce us? I stared at them impassively, realizing they'd recognized Principal Song's position and were trying to use him to advance their own agenda. Principal Song isn't available today. You'll need to come back another time. He's not in? No matter. We can wait. My father grabbed a chair and sat down. I scoffed. Why don't you all make yourselves comfortable while you wait? Wang Deji, please have them escorted out. Though Principal Song's guards had initially admitted them out of deference to me, they now promptly began escorting them out. My mother's brows furrowed as she pointed at me and snapped, You ungrateful brat. We've raised you all these years, and now that you've found someone important, you pretend not to know us? I watched unmoved as they disappeared beyond the guest house. No sooner had one problem ended than another appeared. It wasn't long before Alex came to see me, looking as if he were granting a royal pardon. Ophelia, I agree to let you go to university, and I'll even marry you. Now are you satisfied? I looked at him, bewildered. Would I need your permission to go to university? And why would I agree to marry you? Alex's face darkened. Don't push it. Didn't we break up because you wanted to go to university? I'm giving you what you wanted, so what more do you want? I rolled my eyes. Alex, we've already broken up, I told you. I won't marry you. Ever. His face turned ashen, but he suppressed his anger, took a deep breath, and produced 2 bottles of soda. I got your favorite peach soda to make it up to you. Have a sip so we can talk. You'll change your mind. I stared at the peach soda in his hands, a chill ran through me. In my past life, Luciana drugged me using peach soda. Alex brought 2 bottles in case I wouldn't drink it, and offered to share one with me. I gave him a cold stare and casually took 1 bottle. Fine. There's a plate of snacks in the kitchen too. Go grab that while you're at it. He looked a bit frustrated but turned toward the kitchen while I twisted the cap off the bottle. By the time he returned, I had already switched the 2 soda bottles, taking occasional sips from one. Alex gave me a strange smile, took a few gulps from his bottle, and said, Ophelia, even if you don't give in today, you will eventually. Once you're mine, you'll have to marry me. He made a grab for my hand. But then he staggered and collapsed across the table. I stared coldly at him for a few seconds, then turned and strode out. Just as I opened the door, Luciana stormed in at the head of a large group. Ophelia, how dare you call yourself pure? What were you doing alone with a man in broad daylight? My father bellowed from where he stood. Kneel down, you ungrateful daughter. I sneered. I'm standing perfectly fine. Do you all just throw around baseless accusations? Luciana grinned smugly, like she'd already won. Still not admitting it? Someone saw Alex enter the guest house and you shut the door behind him. The two of you were alone in there for nearly an hour. If that's not an affair, what would you call it? You keep saying you want to break off the engagement with Alex, yet you're shamelessly chasing after him. Without a second thought, they rushed into the inner room. Seeing Alex slumped over the table, they grew bolder. What can a man and a woman alone together mean? Ophelia, you're finished. I smiled faintly at her. A filthy mind sees filth everywhere. She scoffed. Still making excuses? Before I could say anything, a booming voice filled the room. Excuses? Ophelia has nothing to hide. It's Alex who has bad intentions. Seeing the shift in everyone's expressions, I couldn't help but let my lips curve into a smile. Luciana and Alex thought they could set me up, but they'd overlooked two key details. First, I knew there was a drug in the soda, so I swapped the bottles. 2. Aunt Wong was in the kitchen. After Alex took the mung bean pastries, she remembered I'd told her I was allergic to mung beans, so she came to warn me. Sure enough, Aunt Wong had witnessed the entire scene and stormed out, holding a kitchen knife. I saw it all clearly. The man came in spouting rubbish, declaring Ophelia was his woman and tried to force himself on her. If he hadn't slumped over, I would have rushed in to drag him out myself. Everyone gasped, and accusatory gazes turned on Luciana and her family. The commotion woke Alex. Groggily opening his eyes, he saw the crowd and his face darkened. Ophelia, how dare you set me up? Calmly, I approached and lifted the soda bottle from the table. Who's scheming against whom here, Alex? What did you mean by giving me drugged soda? Should I have it tested? His face fell. He darted his eyes around, then whirled on Luciana. What sleeping drug? I know nothing about that. This is all Luciana's fault. She gave me the soda. Luciana shrieked. Alex, how dare you do this? Alex snapped venomously. What do you mean, how dare I? With all the filthy things you've done, what difference does one more make? You've been subtly flirting with me this whole time, asking to meet in the small grove. When you got caught, you framed Ophelia. Do you think everyone else is that stupid? At this, the crowd burst into an uproar. Before, Alex had implied his affair with me in the small grove, but now he was shifting the blame. Luciana's facade crumbled. Now, all eyes turned to her contemptuously. Calvin reacted most strongly. Though he'd been silently following Luciana until now, he hadn't expected this. All eyes were on him. Calvin turned pale and immediately whirled around to confront Luciana, demanding, "Why did you betray me?" Luciana panicked, struggling to break free from his grasp and flee. That's a lie, Calvin. Don't listen to him. But her words fell on deaf ears, and Calvin still fixed her with stormy eyes. I laughed inwardly. Calvin may seem easy to deceive, his true nature was warped. Luciana had made a grave mistake, and she wouldn't escape the consequences. Meanwhile, my parents were stunned. The situation had spiraled out of control, so they looked to me. My mother seized my wrist. Ophelia, this fight is all your fault. Luciana's reputation will be ruined on your account. Do something. Gently removed her hand and stepped back firmly. That's the consequence of your own actions. You can't blame anyone else. The farce dragged on for a long time, eventually devolving into mutual insults between Calvin and Luciana. Calvin naturally held a grudge against Alex, but Alex, too accustomed to flirting with women, couldn't care less about his anger. What began as a cheating scandal escalated into a family drama, and they were all too embarrassed to continue arguing in public. They quickly scattered. We left together with Principal Song and returned to the school. Though late for registration, thanks to the principal, I was allowed to register late and join as a new student. I began catching up on missed lessons, studying day and night. School life was fulfilling. I devoted most of my time to studies and classes, spending breaks primarily in the library. Here, studying was simply the norm. Whenever questions arose, the school had plenty of teachers to provide guidance and answers. Because of my connection with Principal Song, I still occasionally visited him. Not only was Principal Song an excellent educator and military statesman, but his calligraphy and scholarly knowledge were also remarkable. The months slipped by, and when I stepped out of the school gates at semester's end, I saw Alex waiting outside as if he'd been there a while. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. "Ophelia, I finally see you. I've been waiting for ages. Are you cold? Here, have some roasted sweet potatoes." He gazed at me warmly, but I remained unmoved. Fixing him with a cold stare, I said, "Alex, you do well not to show yourself in front of me, or I won't be able to resist the urge to hit you." His face froze for a moment, but he swallowed his pride and forced a smile. "Ophelia, I was too hasty before. I acted impulsively, and that's why I upset you. Please don't bear a grudge, and I truly wish to mend our relationship." I smirked. "Is that so? Then why are you here?" Sure enough, he blurted out, "I've just written a new book and would like Principal Song to provide a calligraphic inscription. Meeting him in person would be even better." "So that's what this is about." I looked at his eager expression and no longer hid my mockery. The new book must not be selling well if it was selling at all. Now he thought asking Principal Song to endorse it would boost sales. "I won't help you. If you've got the ability, go find Principal Song yourself." Alex clutched my arm. "Ophelia, please, just let me meet Principal Song, I swear." Before he could finish, I pushed him away. "Alex, what gave you the idea that after hurting me, I'd forgive you and kindly help you?" I gave him a cold smile. "Keep dreaming." I kicked Alex out of school that day. There were many people nearby at the time, and he hid his face as he scrambled away. After that, he never came looking for me again, and I enjoyed some peace and quiet. Until my parents came to see me, crying as they complained about how hard their lives were. "Ophelia, why haven't you answered any of our letters? We've been so worried and miss you terribly." I recalled they'd sent me several letters, but I'd tossed them all in the trash. I couldn't be bothered to deal with them. "I don't have time for this. Just say what you want." My parents exchanged looks. After a moment, they began to speak hesitantly. "Ophelia, could we ask for a loan? The meat plant's in serious trouble and might not keep operating. Your sister is pregnant again, constantly at each other's throats with Calvin, the house in constant turmoil. If this continues, your sister's baby will be at risk, and we won't be able to save the plant either." After listening for a while, I quickly grasped the situation. Luciana was utterly incapable of running the factory. As a negligent owner, she squandered profits on her own indulgences, forcing Calvin to constantly clean up after her while scarcely keeping the operation afloat. After discovering Luciana's infidelity, Calvin grew increasingly controlling, consumed by suspicion and paranoia. Their frequent arguments shifted focus away from running the factory. Meanwhile, Luciana refused to pay the workers their wages despite having the money, all to fund her lifestyle. The workers demanded their pay. When my parents realized something was wrong and tried to help, it was too late. The factory was no longer operational, not only hemorrhaging money but teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. But how was this my problem? "Ophelia, you have to help your sister. If the plant shuts down, we'll all go hungry. As the older sister, it's your duty to support us, especially when you're doing so well. With enough money to tide us over, we can surely get through this." I looked at them coldly, feeling nothing. If only they'd considered this sooner. "I don't have money, but I know how to get a loan. What if I help you with that instead?" My parents forced a smile, but they remained unyielding. "Really? No money? Come on, you have so many wealthy classmates and no Principal Song. Can't you borrow from them? I didn't respond. I walked away without a word. I stayed at school and never returned home. The only time I returned home was when I received the news of Luciana's death. I returned to the village for her simple funeral. Calvin's former life of wealth had long since vanished. My parents' hair had gone gray, and tears streamed down while they burned funeral paper offerings for Luciana. Calvin had vanished. I inquired around and learned that his relationship with Luciana had long since deteriorated. He would often hit and scold her, and even after she became pregnant, he doubted whether the child was even his. When Luciana died from blood loss during childbirth, Calvin immediately fled with what was left of their money, without hesitation. Calvin's situation only got worse with the meat plant permanently closed. Ophelia, you're our only daughter now. Who'll look after us when we're old if you're not around? Looking into their desperate eyes, I calmly replied, I've already secured a border posting and leave in a few days. I reported Calvin's actions to the authorities and gave them some money toward funeral expenses. After leaving, I walked through the village, catching snippets of village gossip. Much to my surprise, I overheard talk about Alex. The once glamorous playboy had succumbed to gambling again, losing his entire family fortune at the casino. Because of his massive debts, casino enforcers beat him so severely that he was crippled, and now he lies confined to bed, unable to move. People sighed and shook their heads, lamenting how someone who seemed to have it all ruined himself so completely. I walked on without stopping, leaving the past behind me.